Hi, I'm Tiffany. I'm the sales director for Optimo Hats.
Thanks for chatting with me today. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Okay, as you can see, I love my hats. I have the two behind me.
Mhm.
Older Stingy Brim and the newer Mundo, which I did at Pitti in fall winter. Florence is super hot, so I need to get a hat. I'm so pasty, I have to keep the sun off of me, right? Because I don't tan, I literally just burn. There's no purpose in me trying to tan. There's a style component as well, right?
Absolutely.
So I have these two that you've given me. They're both Panama hats.
No, so one's the Colombian Iraca Palm straw, and then one is the Montecristi
And
Panama.
that's this one.
So the darker color one, yes. So the darker one is a Colombian palm straw, and it's coffee dyed, which is how you get that slightly darker color than that of the traditional Panama. Because we don't bleach or dye or do any of that to our Panamas.
And these are maybe a little bit more rare than the Panamas?
Correct. So we may get five of those a size during our busy season, but we regularly don't get a great deal of those.
What makes this one more rare than the Panama?
It's something that we've only started carrying fairly newly. It's about bringing folks up to speed and weaving to this quality standard for us.
Oh, okay.
So like when we used to carry the Milans, it got to a point where they weren't weaving them to the quality standard that we would feel comfortable giving to our clients. So when we would get them, we would be discarding a great deal of them, but not passing them on to you guys. So we want to put more of these in circulation if we can, because they're a great hat and the color is just beautiful. We've been experimenting with dyeing them a few different ways. We've had some dye with pea flower before that become like this beautiful yellow color, and then also these coffee ones, but it's going to be a process.
Is it rare then because culturally they just aren't made to that standard, so you're trying to increase production at the local level?
I believe so. Graham would be the better authority on that.
Fair enough. Okay, cool. I do see that there is, I'm not sure if you can tell, the Panama Montecristi is lighter in tone, undyed.
Completely undyed, unbleached, all of that.
Does this one start out this color before it's dyed?
Similar color, yes.
So, okay, cool. Initially, this is a little more casual, so I think of this as maybe a little bit more wearable.
I would say that the Montecristi tends to be the more utilitarian one, because that's the one you can take all the way down to beach casual and all the way up to wedding formal and kind of everything in between.
Okay.
That one tends to be a little bit more casual, so you wouldn't have as many opportunities to wear it.
Because it has a ceiling on formality.
Correct.
And that's just because the darker tone means you get less
Darker
contrast.
tone, they usually don't come in as fine of a weave. They usually only top out around those entry-level grades.
Speaking about that though, this particular hat looks to be about the same fineness of weave as this Iraca Palm. Are they close?
They're both pretty close, but the Montecristi is slightly finer. I'm sure you can see and feel as well.
Slightly, but yes. These can get up to $30,000, $45,000 for the Milfinos, correct?
Correct.
And picking a hat, obviously you can see I've had progression, right? I'm in a wider hat now than I used to be. I don't wear this one as much anymore. The brims are different widths here. I'm not sure if that's purely because there's a ribbon on this or they're actually different widths. This is the first one, and I am leaning this direction. I think I was taught by you, by the sides, and then you pull the brim down. Is that
Fantastic, yes.
perfect? So what should I be looking for in terms of how wide it is relative? Is it to my body, my shoulders, my outfit, or is it?
It's a combination of outfit, face shape, and overall build. Also, you're someone who wears glasses. It's also about how much sun protection you want. I have guys that'll have a multitude of straw hats in various brim widths for different silhouettes, essentially, or for different occasions. Like if you are someone who enjoys hiking, you may have a specific much wider brim that you use specifically for that versus your day-to-day commuting to the office and that type of thing. So
Okay, so let's discuss tailoring first. And this is a work hat primarily on camera, social media, meeting with clients, and then around town. We'll be in mostly Florence and Naples, both sunny, hot places. So what I've worn today, this blazer is very airy. It's a polo shirt underneath it and then denim. So this will be a pretty common use case. I feel like the formality of the hat meets this pretty well.
Oh, it absolutely does. It meets that beautifully.
Okay, relative.
What I always try to do is make it look like something you could have worn into the store with whatever you're wearing at that time, and that was perfect.
This one, see here, feels a little bit dressier simply because the contrast from dark to light elevates
Makes
it.
sense.
Do you have any initial reaction to the width here relative?
They both look fantastic. I think it's about whichever one you're going to decide to go with first. And that's what I'm saying. Also, with getting straws, I often recommend people have multiple so that you're not putting so much wear and tear on one. So a lot of people tend to have both the Montecristi and the Iraca for that reason.
Fair. This is my first. So one today. I'm limiting myself to just one hat at a time.
I would say let's start with the Iraca. We know that we have ample supply of the Montecristi, and that we can always make you one of those a little bit later in the season or at some point next year. But but because of the availability of Iraca, having one, especially in your size, being a little bit larger of a size, let's go that way.
And then I had 3 considerations. I'm tending toward the Iraca anyway. They do fit slightly differently, even though they're the same technical size. So they both have leather sweatbands, right?
Which is ideal for summer because you want something that's going to catch that perspiration and keep it from seeping out to the band. A lot of times you see people and they have that salt line around their ribbon because they have those cloth bands, or they have like a thin vinyl or something like that as it catches perspiration. That's a roan leather sweatband. So that's ideal for that.
This one, it does touch my head all the way around. However, it just touches, so the hat actually slides down on my head, and the weight of the hat is actually on the crown back here. It's not being supported by the waistband at all.
That's normal. As you perspire in it, the sweatband's going to sort of puff out that sweatband a little bit, and it's going to come in to meet your head, kind of how a good shoe finds your foot. That's exactly what's going to happen. So the ideal fit with any hat should be just a hair loose like that, because you aren't such a exaggerated oval or anything like that where I know that that it needs to be adjusted in that way, which sometimes it does. Sometimes with people, you'll see more pressure in the front and back because they're a long oval, on the sides because they're a round oval, that sort of thing, or it won't stick at all in the front because they're a round oval. We'll want to then adjust for that. But those are usually things I can see right away from someone's side profile.
Okay. So I'm a big head, but I'm symmetric. Nice. This one does fit differently. I am popping the brim back up.
Correct. When you sit it on a flat surface, always pop the brim up or allow it to hang over a ledge with the brim snapped. It's one of those things where it doesn't hurt the straw itself, but what it does is it keeps you from sending it to us prematurely to have it repressed.
This hat here, the sweatband actually touches my head all the way around. So if I wanted to sit it way up, I could. It touches me and the sweatband would support it. Now I can pretty easily flex the hat and have it support the weight on the crown, but it is a touch more snug. Should I be concerned about the fit of that relative to this one?
A touch more, no. Okay. If you told me that it felt like it was going to grind into your head after a couple of hours of wear, then that'd be a whole different thing. But a touch more, no. That can be one of those things because we're using a natural product. It could be more tension on the sweatband. It could be the thickness of that particular sweatband versus the other. There could be a touch more that's negligible. So
okay. I'm not going to in any way hurt the raw material by sweating here if it touches more or less?
No.
Okay.
It's common for them to sit on the top of most people's heads. If someone is a super heavy perspirer, we'll often put a tip sticker on the inside of there to sort of help not as much sweat go through the top of the hat, but I don't think that'll be a case for you.
Sticker. Can you elaborate? Because I might need that.
I'll show you an example of one. Give me 1 second.
Yep.
Actually, there should be one inside of your mundo.
That little tiny.
Correct. Sometimes with these straws, we will do a satin version of that has the Optimo logo on them, but that's essentially what the tip sticker is. So it's dead center of the hat right there.
Can you send me one of those?
You'll want it sewn in. So what we'll do is at the end of the season, we'll evaluate how your straw's been performing, and then we'll add one in when we service it.
Oh, okay. Great. And then my third consideration, so I had the sweat, I had the circumference fit. In terms of quality, I tend to like to buy a nicer quality item because it's going to last me longer. I know that the Panamas can get kind of crazy in price because they get finer and finer and they're for softer and softer, more fabric-like almost. I've touched some of the amazing ones you have in your shop.
Parchment paper as opposed to an actual straw. Our average customer for their first is usually somewhere in our pheno grade. And our pheno grades range between $2,000 and $3,000 for their first hat to get a finer one without necessarily breaking the bank on their first one. Like you said, these can go into the tens of thousands, but that's not necessary unless you're just interested in acquiring one of a work of art, so to speak. Are there advantages to getting a much finer weave? Absolutely, because the more weaves per square inch, the more bend points, which means more durable, which means that wear and tear I was talking about, usually it gives you a little bit longer of a lifespan if you have a much denser weave. Most people tend to start somewhere around that pheno weave. If they're interested in the much finer weaves, they'll treat themselves to one that they then sort of make the more occasional hat, that type of thing.
It's amazing. In most areas of craft, especially in clothing, shoes, accessories, spending more money on more fine things usually is the opposite of durability. Hats are the exception? Mm-hmm. Huh, okay, cool. Because that can get crazy and maybe I want to invest in a nicer version of that hat. These don't get to the top. So I'm almost at the top now with this one.
Correct.
So I'm buying the nicest version of this now and maybe a nicer, not nicest, version of that one next year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, makes sense.
You're at it like everyone else. I knew that was coming at some point.
Understood. Okay. Anything you would change about fit, positioning of the hat I'm wearing?
Like you'll figure out what your style is. Some days you'll want to wear it a little bit further back on your head. Some days you may want to wear it cocked. You'll kind of figure that out depending on the outfit, your mood, that sort of thing. But it looks fantastic as is at the moment.
Thank you. And then travel with this. I am committing to wearing a hat on the plane, on the train, when you bring a straw hat. So help me with that piece.
The main thing with this is not to crack it. So my thing is when you get to a plane, and this is what I do with mine, I'll literally wait till we get to cruising altitude and I'll put it under my seat. If I just happen to have the room in my carry-on, then I'll do something like take like a pair of socks or a t-shirt or something like that, put it in the crown to make it stationary, and then roll up items around it. That's really a case-by-case basis.
They are fragile, susceptible to crushing. I wouldn't have thought to put it in my carry-on just because it's going to get, mushed around. How much reshaping can I do with one of these? Like, for example, with my Mundo, I can reshape it kind of infinitely, essentially. These are a little more pressed in their position. A carry-on carry of this hat where you have, socks in the crown and then things around it, it's still going to get kind of indented, bent, twisted a little bit. How much?
The brim, yeah. The crown doesn't really move because that is a machine press shape in that's done with an actual metal press. Those aren't meant to be as malleable as the fur felt in any way. It's exaggeration. So those are not ones that you will shape by hand or anything like that. That shape is set into the hat. And now will it relax a little bit over time with heat, humidity, light rain, that type of thing? Yes. Okay. When you send it in for servicing, which we recommend every 2 to 3 years, that's when we'll repress it, make it essentially look like brand new.
Anything else that I should know?
Handling by the brim when you're taking it on and off.
Yep.
Most people tend to pinch at the crown, which over time can crack the hat. But outside of that, yeah, that's perfect.
And here.
Yeah, just wear the heck out of it. You can decide whether you want to wear your brim up, where it's snapped. It's all personal preference. Some people like to wear it down all the way around, especially if you want protection on the back of your neck with you being someone who burns a little bit more.
I can do that. I hadn't thought about that. More of a garden style.
Exactly.
That doesn't hurt it. That amount of flexing is okay.
Perfectly fine.
All right. Great. I love it.